A storm rages through the ancient monastery, its sacred banners torn from their places. The once serene halls now filled with howling winds. The party arrives to find the temple defiled, its altars broken, and its sacred relics scattered. At the heart of the chaos, an air elemental rages, its form a furious cyclone of swirling clouds and crackling energy. It is not merely an intruder, it is the guardian of this place, angered by the desecration. Welcome to the Monster Spotlight of the Air Elementals. Here I'm going to break down creatures to make sure that your encounters are more immersive and memorable, and it's easy to understand the functions of the different creatures in the brand new 2024 Monster Manual. Today I'm diving into the Air Elemental, a primal force of wind and storm that will challenge any adventurer. Air Elementals are living storms, ever shifting and relentless. Their bodies are composed of powerful winds. Sometimes those are tinged with lightning or mist. And in this particular monastery that I'm setting up, the elemental has become an avenger. It's reacting to the corruption of the temple it once protected. Some strategy and tactics the air elementals may use is hit and run types of tactics. They would weave through broken pillars and debris, striking with bursts of thunderous force. And it will also attempt to throw intruders back with powerful gusts, forcing them into precarious positions or even separating the party. I can envision the party moving through halls of the temple with these very strong gusts of wind pushing them down different directions, separating them out because they can't really move back by the strength of the winds, and then trying to solve puzzles throughout this temple that the air elementals almost forced them into. When using an air elemental in your campaign, play up its fury, and even its emotion, its sorrow, however you want it to be some extreme version of this personality, letting its attacks feel both righteous and vengeful or angry. If the party chooses, in our situation here, to restore the monastery, you can present them with a puzzle or a series of challenges to rebuild altars and drive out some form of lingering corruption, or reconnect the temple to its divine power, and they can sense the air elemental waning on its extreme emotions. Let's jump directly into its stat block and look at the entire arsenal that this thing has. The air elemental has an armor class of 15 and a max HP average of about 90, which is not much. This is a pretty low level encounter, CR 5 if you're using one just alone. Maybe accompany this with some form of minions or support creatures just to make it a little more dynamic. I do think that even at level 5, 4 characters fighting this creature, depending on the environment and the things that you use, would actually be somewhat of an easy combat. So try to put in some effort into beefing out the combat scenario so it's not just one overwhelmed air elemental. The air elemental has very high dexterity and a somewhat respectable strength and constitution, but for the most part, it's its speed. It has a fly speed of 90 feet, and it has hover, which means it wouldn't take fall damage if it gets hit while flying. And so this creature, this air elemental, will be extremely mobile throughout a battlefield, dashing for 180 feet, but also just being able to move 90 feet on its own. It resists bludgeoning damage, lightning damage, piercing, and slashing damage, and it has a ton of immunities to look at too: poison, thunder, exhaustion, grappled, paralyzed, petrified, poisoned, prone, restrained, and unconscious. So it's got a lot of resistances and things that will help it continue in a long fight. However, like I said, it doesn't have that much health, and its armor class is somewhat easy to hit. It will be a bit of a challenge, but I think we'll be surprised by the big damage and how quick a party might be able to take care of 90 hit points. Let's look at its traits and its actions next. So it does have air form. The elemental can enter a creature's space and stop there. It can move through a space as narrow as 1 inch without expending extra movement to do so. I personally would take some liberties with air form, and I think if I were doing an air elemental combat, I almost would not give the air elemental a unique spot on the map, like that it only takes up this little 10-foot circle for being large. I think that I would make it almost incorporeal and a part of the room and the wind. It is the storm that is in this place, so that would allow my players to do things like attacking the wind, attacking the clouds, any then appearing solid part of where this elemental may be, they could actually attack and hit. But I think that also breaks open our air elemental to then use its attacks and its whirlwind with a bit more versatility in that space. It should feel like, if you're fighting an air elemental, it's absolutely everywhere surrounding you, causing destruction from every angle as fast as the wind itself. So let's look at its actions. It has multi-attack, so on its turn it can make 2 Thunderous Slam attacks, and to do that it gets +8 to its attack rolls, and will end up dealing an average of 14 damage with its 2d8 + 5. That is respectable and quick, and I think that seeing those slams coming out on a regular basis on its turns would be good. It's just not going to be a lot of damage if it's just one air elemental doing that, and then the whole party gets to go, and then the air elemental attacks again. This is not a very dangerous combat on its own, like I said earlier. However, it does have the whirlwind ability, which recharges on a 4, 5, or 6 on the beginning of its turn. So you have a 50% chance of getting Whirlwind back every single turn. It causes a strength saving throw, DC 13, and one medium or smaller creature in the elemental's space is going to make that. On failure, it'll take an average of 24 thunder damage, and the target is then pushed up to 20 feet straight away from the elemental and has the prone condition. And on a success, it only just takes the half damage and is not pushed. So on its own, good damage and good control of the room, but unless you have some environmental dangers that this air elemental is trying to use, overall it's going to be a weaker version of that Whirlwind. So design your combat area to be using that Whirlwind. What might the characters slam into, or what might they be trying to get to that being pushed 20 feet away is going to delay them and slow them down. Make those pushes meaningful. Don't let them just be, all right, you're prone and you're 20 feet away. You can do something more dynamic with that to make the air elemental's entire combat situation more impactful. Like I've been using as an illustration throughout this video, a combat scenario I would like to design an air elemental around would be the party entering a monastery, abandoned and destroyed during a violent storm. Maybe they run in for some protection from nature, only to find that the source of it, the air elemental, is actually in this temple, and it is angry about the desecration that has occurred of that temple. So the wind is unnaturally strong within its walls. You'll see some clues around: shattered relics, torn scrolls, desecrated murals, a hint at what has transpired here. And if the party investigates and begins to restore the site, they'll maybe notice that the storm starts to dwindle a little bit. The air elemental begins to hesitate. It starts watching their actions. If they continue to destroy or loot, it will attack in full force, but if it sees them as good beings taking care of its space, then they'll notice that in the storm that rages around them. So you've got that discovery phase, that entry phase. The party arrives, they see the aftermath of the monastery's desecration. The tension can build as the wind seems to whisper to them. Debris shifts around. They start to notice that the storm is responsive, interactive. They have a decision point. They can fight this raging elemental, try to cleanse the temple of this storm's presence. Maybe the storm is actually preventing them from their journey outside of the temple, and so if they want a quick end and they're just like, no, let's just kill this elemental, end the storm and go, then they would have that option. Or they could then choose to restore the temple's sacred rites. And then that final confrontation, either an intense battle with the furious storm or a race to purify the temple before the elemental's patience runs out. There may be an external factor to this air elemental for wanting it to continue a high-level storm in the area, so maybe it needs to continue with some wind and storm, and the party, as they're restoring the temple, is just an unnecessary consequence of danger to them while the air elemental is focused on some of those external factors. That would give the air elemental some reason to continue the storm while the party's trying to restore the temple, and make that a little bit more of a dynamic encounter as well. So that's it. This air elemental is a powerful force of nature, but it doesn't have to just be another monster to fight. By giving it purpose and emotion, you can create a truly memorable encounter. Will your players battle the storm, or will they try to calm it? Let us know how you'd run this creature in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more monster highlights as we step into a truly interesting one next, the Animal Lord, a brand new creature, super high challenge rating, a being and an entity of the woods itself. I'm so excited to make that video. Hopefully I'll catch you there.